The Chinese Communist Party's military exercise near Taiwan ended abruptly after just half a day, and related trending topics on Weibo disappeared overnight. The Chinese government has also initiated a large-scale recall of veterans. On October 14th at 5 a.m., the Eastern Theater Command of the Chinese military unexpectedly announced the start of a drill called Joint Sword 2024B around Taiwan. The exercise was said to be aimed at deterring Taiwan independence activities. However, it only lasted for 13 hours. On October 14th, more than 10 topics related to the drill appeared on the top 50 trending list on Weibo, but by the next morning, all of them had vanished. Some scholars speculate that the exercise was limited to avoid escalating situations ahead of the U.S. election. According to Taiwan's Ministry of Defense, the exercise, which ran from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m., involved 9 different zones. The People's Liberation Army deployed 17 warships, 17 Coast Guard vessels, and as many as 125 aircraft sorties, with 90 of these aircraft entering the response zone. This was the second military drill targeting Taiwan by the CCP this year. It broke previous records with a total of 125 aircraft, including various types of fighter jets, helicopters, and drones. The scale marked a new high for a single day. Moreover, the drills were conducted closer to Taiwan, with some maneuvers pushing towards Taiwan's territorial waters. One notable aspect of this drill was the participation of 17 Coast Guard vessels, marking the highest involvement of such ships in a military exercise. Similar to the Joint Sword 2024A drill in May, the Chinese Coast Guard was present again. However, while the Coast Guard ships in May only appeared near the Jingmen and Xiamen waters, this time they not only crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait, but also formed 4 teams circling Taiwan. Of particular interest was the appearance of the Coast Guard Monster. The Coast Guard Monster, identified as Vessel 2901, is the largest law enforcement ship in China's Coast Guard fleet and is the first to have a displacement of over 10,000 tons. It was delivered at the end of 2015 and is under the East China Sea branch of the Chinese Coast Guard. Taiwanese scholar Li Dazhong analyzed that the involvement of Coast Guard vessels in the drill indicates their role in encircling Taiwan, which he described as a form of gray zone harassment. He warned that beyond the combined operations of China's Coast Guard and the PLA's air and naval forces, attention should also be paid to the role of China's maritime militia. On October 14th, the top search terms on Weibo included keywords like Eastern Theater Command, Joint Sword 2024B, and One China. Additionally, soon after the announcement of the drills, China Central Television, CCTV, posted anti-Taiwan independence content on its official Weibo account, pushing trending phrases such as Taiwan independence is a dead end, national unification is an unstoppable historic trend, and the complete unification of the motherland will surely be achieved. However, after China unexpectedly announced the end of the drill in the evening, all related hot searches about the Joint Sword exercise disappeared. Given the phenomenon of paid trending topics on Weibo, this sudden surge in popularity was believed to have been artificially boosted. Meanwhile, there were a few interesting anecdotes from the drill circulating on X. According to a post by New 27th Brigade Military Talk, intercepted radio communication revealed that during the CCP's Sword B exercise, Taiwan's Coast Guard vessels used remote-controlled cannons to aim at the sterns of Chinese Coast Guard ships, causing sudden emotional outbursts among the Chinese officers on board. Another anecdote mentioned that Taiwan's Navy intercepted communications, showing that a large number of PLA officers had booked karaoke sessions the night before the drill. When they had to carry out their tasks, many of the Chinese Navy officers were reportedly not happy. The majority of the CCP's active duty soldiers don't have siblings, and many join the army mainly for a stable livelihood. If a war were to break out, would there be a wave of mass desertions? The background of this military exercise can be traced back to Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te's National Day speech on October 10th. In his address, President Lai emphasized that Taiwan and mainland China are not subordinate to each other, countering China's territorial claims. Although Lai's speech did not contain much provocative language, the CCP accused him of using new deceptive rhetoric to package his new two-state theory of non-subordination, and claimed he was repackaging Taiwan independence arguments. The CCP then launched large-scale military drills encircling Taiwan. Alex, a young Chinese expatriate working in the eastern U.S., spoke with Radio Free Asia, saying that information is heavily censored in China, making it difficult to openly discuss sensitive topics. This leads to a situation where Chinese nationalists dominate the conversation. He said, "Some people ask me for President Lai Ching-te's inaugural speech. Many only know to criticize Lai's Taiwan independence rhetoric, but they don't actually know what he said, which is quite ironic." Alex mentioned that the purpose of this drill might have been to appease domestic nationalist sentiment because doing nothing could backfire on the CCP's nationalist agenda. He said, "While we see a lot of nationalist rhetoric, many people are secretly tired of such political propaganda." Though he added that Taiwan should still remain vigilant. Why did the Joint Sword 2024B military exercise after just one day? Veteran journalist Akio Yaita recently analyzed on his program that the abrupt end of this exercise reflects Beijing's complicated stance on the Taiwan Strait issue. Although Beijing wants to use frequent drills to pressure Taiwan, the effectiveness of these exercises is waning. The Taiwanese public has gradually become immune to China's military threats, and international reactions have made Beijing more cautious. The sudden conclusion of this drill shows that the CCP's military actions are constrained and unlikely to escalate into actual conflict. Yaita believes that domestic nationalism in China has also played a role in the quick conclusion of the drill. Chinese state media heavily promoted the exercise, emphasizing that the PLA can act against Taiwan if necessary. Through this high-profile propaganda, the Chinese government managed to project a tough stance, temporarily satisfying nationalist sentiment at home. However, escalating the drills further could provoke strong reactions from the international community, which Beijing clearly does not want. Therefore, after achieving their propaganda goals, the exercise was quickly called off. Some believe that when Beijing decided to launch the drills, they were intended to avoid making Taiwan Strait tensions a major topic during the U.S. presidential election, which could disrupt the recent easing of U.S.-China relations. By planning only a one-day exercise, Beijing quickly withdrew forces to minimize how the news would resonate in the U.S. Colin Ko-Sui Lian from Singapore's S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies told Reuters that the large-scale drills around Taiwan seem to represent a new gray zone tactic by China, but the exercise was limited to avoid stirring up the U.S. election climate. So what message did this drill send, and what kind of large-scale planning is the CCP executing? Former Chinese naval officer Yao Cheng said on the Elite Forum program that this Joint Sword 2024B drill was not exactly an exercise. It was the first step in implementing the blockade operation plan against Taiwan, turning it into a concrete military strategy, a troop mobilization. The main purpose was to rapidly assemble forces at their combat positions. Subsequent actions will be implemented step by step based on different combat plans. Yao said, "When I was in the Navy, I was involved in modifying parts of the Taiwan blockade plans. It contains many elements, and this time it was a quick mobilization under a high level of secrecy. Specifically, the PLA's Eastern Theater Command mentioned 5 main subjects, the first being joint strikes by military branches. The branches include the Eastern Theater's 4 major forces: Army, Navy, Air Force, and Rocket Force, which mobilized quickly. But there were other units that haven't yet moved but are prepared. According to the standard procedures, forces deployed in 6 areas around Taiwan included 125 aircraft. In reality, there is a reserve force of 4 times that amount. In first-level combat readiness, 125 planes are on standby at airfields. At the second level, there are twice as many, 250 planes. First-level readiness means pilots are seated in cockpits. Second level means that they're at the airport, with all aviation personnel and aircraft gathered on the tarmac, and staff on standby at home. This is a core part of the operational plan. The exercise was sudden, with the order given just over an hour in advance. The units weren't informed beforehand to avoid leaks. The night before, many in the unit said, "Let's get some rest tonight, we've got work tomorrow." But they didn't say it was an operational plan. So not only was Taiwan unprepared, but the U.S. didn't react either. The Chinese military was mobilized at a moment's notice. Yao Cheng believes that the recent intercontinental missile launch by the CCP into the Pacific is part of their broader plan to blockade Taiwan. The key issue for the CCP in seizing Taiwan is anti-access operations, which aim to prevent the U.S. from intervening. The missile launch serves as a warning to the U.S., signaling that China can strike American soil. However, China's nuclear arsenal is still far inferior to that of the U.S. Therefore, the principle behind China's nuclear strategy is that while they may not have the capability to cause total destruction, they can still retaliate if attacked. As the CCP continues to escalate its military threats against Taiwan, international military experts have varying assessments, but many believe that the highest likelihood of an attack would be between 2027 and 2032. Recently, Willie Lam, a guest professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, commented that Xi Jinping has been intensifying his crackdown within the military. He said that Xi Jinping fears potential betrayal from senior officers, even those he personally promoted. Lam remarked, "Xi has overestimated his own capabilities. He might think he can resolve the personnel issues within the PLA in a few years and elevate his loyalists to high ranks, but this is quite difficult." Whether the PLA has the ability to launch an attack on Taiwan, Lam stated that Xi Jinping has yet to address these challenges. He said, "From what we know, many top military officers understand that the PLA's actual strength is not very robust. Therefore, there are quite a few senior leaders within the military who are opposed to using force against Taiwan." Lam noted that Xi is trying a flood-like approach by pouring massive funds into saving China's economy, but the general consensus is that these efforts have little chance of success. This has led to low domestic approval for Xi Jinping. China is facing numerous cases across economic and social fronts, with thousands of holes and leaks, and Xi is under immense pressure. He might believe that taking military action against Taiwan or in disputed areas of the South China Sea could salvage his standing within the party and preserve the CCP's rule. It is possible that Xi could make a desperate move. Over the past 5 years, China has conducted almost daily military maneuvers around Taiwan, including at least 4 large-scale drills and regular joint combat readiness patrols. The latest encircling exercise has drawn strong international reactions, but within Taiwan, the response has been more muted. Compared to the Taiwan Strait crisis of 1995 to 1996, or even the crisis in August 2022, the public reaction in Taiwan has been much calmer. Amid concerns about the PLA's encircling of Taiwan, a message reportedly sent by the CCP's Armed Forces Department to reserve veterans, calling them to respond to battle, has been circulating widely online. A user on X shared images with text stating, "The CCP has begun a large-scale recall of retired soldiers to active service. It seems they're preparing for a last stand as they sense their end is near." The shared image contained a screenshot of a WeChat message. Yes, a batch of veterans was already recalled a few months ago, even female soldiers, like those in communications roles. Now, when it comes to warfare, technical roles are needed. Regular soldiers who served just 3 years aren't being called back. They're looking for those trained to operate tanks and missiles. A series of videos circulating on Douyin and WeChat video channels show a surge in call-up notices for reservists following China's National Day celebrations, with many of these notices labeled as special operations. In the comment section of these videos, users have remarked, "It seems like a lot of soldiers are being recalled. I even know someone who suddenly got an order to return for training." Another comment mentioned, "This batch is said to be around 26 years old, and the second batch might include those under 32. I hope there won't be a second batch and that this group returns safely." On September 5, 2024, Chinese state media People's Daily released a video with the slogan, "If there is war, we will be recalled." The video was flooded with comments reading, "If there is war, recall the luxury cars." One user remarked, "If there is war, recall Communist Party members, corrupt officials, and their children. Ordinary people can't even afford to eat properly. How can they have the strength to fight?" The video was swiftly taken down. Historically, the CCP has recalled veterans for a second time. For example, in the lead-up to the 1979 Vietnam War, the Central Military Commission approved the recall of a group of retired and demobilized artillery, tank, engineering, and communication soldiers to address the shortage of technical personnel during the transition between new and old soldiers. In recent years, the CCP's aggressive rhetoric about reunifying Taiwan by force has not been met with unanimous support among the Chinese public. Recently, a viral video on social media featured an elderly man who disapproved of his grandson going to war. When a vlogger asked, "Sir, if our country was in danger and your grandson wanted to go to the battlefield, would you, as his grandfather, agree?" The elderly man replied, "I don't really approve." He explained, "Life is very tough right now, with challenges in education, housing, and healthcare. Ordinary people have it really hard." He also pointed out, "Why are so many leaders sending their children abroad? Isn't China good enough?" The underlying message was clear. While the CCP has placed immense pressure on people's lives, making survival difficult, when it comes to war, the leaders send their children abroad, yet expect ordinary people to send their own children to the front lines. In the same video, a young man from Harbin expressed a similar sentiment. "If it's to defend my homeland, to fight a defensive war, I'll go, but if it's somewhere else, I won't." Despite being strangers, the elderly man and the young man shared an honest perspective that resonates with many today. Recently, a netizen from Shanxi told overseas media that life in rural areas is already tough, leaving people with no energy to care about military drills or the issue of attacking Taiwan. Another user from Xi'an remarked, "Taiwan's democracy and human rights are better than China's, so many who are thoughtful don't support the government's stance."